Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry. Let's bookmark this and go back in time to when you head out to Miami, because you said that was your first venture into the hospitality industry. So I want to learn about all the crazy shit that you learned the hard way, right? So going back, it's mid 80s. What's the year when you head down to Miami?
89.
89?
Yeah.
Okay. And you opened this rock club in Miami. Was the reason to go down there to open this club? Did it just fall in your lap?
No, actually a friend. Years before that, I went to college in Laconia, and one of my best friends one night kind of spun the globe. He was over school. He had it. I'm leaving. I'm doing something else. He spun the globe, and he landed by St. Thomas, and he said, I'm moving to the Virgin Islands. And he moved down to the Virgin Islands and ended up coming across, he was working at this bar. I remember we went down to visit him in St. Thomas, and he was working at this bar, and the guy who owned the bar was from Ireland, and there was all this craziness going on in Ireland, and he had to go home. So we sold the bar to my buddy for $1, plus the rent, obviously. And so I flew down there and kind of opened up a sub shop in the back of that bar that he had in St. Thomas, just for a few months. It wasn't because that was the only experience I had, was kind of making subs, The
story's unfolding.
Yeah.
So you're okay. So how old are you? Let's not to date you.
This is probably I'm probably 22 at this point. Yeah.
I love hearing when people get started early, though, because you know that you're so wet behind the ears at this point. You're so green. There's just so many things you haven't learned yet. Reflecting back at that time, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently? What were the things you learned through this experience?
I wouldn't have opened the sub shop in St. Thomas. I remember some hard mistakes. It was St. Patty's Day. I remember the only way you could get stuff was to bring it in from the mainland, and I remember we ordered 120 pounds. We were going to do this corned beef thing, it was St. Patty's Day, and I forget how many pounds of corned beef, Schul and Weber corned beef, or whatever, from New York. I had it shipped in. It was so expensive, and I think we might have sold 10 sandwiches, and I had corned beef for the rest of the existence of the sub shop, because we just had so much of it. But that was a short-lived thing. And when I came back to New Hampshire, my partner, who had kind of dragged me down to St. Thomas, who was my college friend, opened up a restaurant in Miami Beach.
Okay.
And so he kind of invited me down in January to come. Well, hey, Kev, wanted to come run this restaurant with me, or what have you. I got down there. I decided to move down. He flew me down for a weekend. I loved Miami. In February, Miami's nice.
Yeah. So what's the year now? 1990, 1991.
This is.
This
is probably 88 something, somewhere in that ballpark. And then I decided to move down there shortly thereafter. It might have been 89, and he had this restaurant which was just not very successful. And I think I was there for maybe a couple of weeks, and one of the things I noticed about Miami Beach was there was no live music venues. There was absolutely nothing. It was a lot of salsa clubs and Cuban dance clubs and things like that. And I had come from New England, Boston, the Channel, all this stuff, and so that's what we kind of tried to recreate down there, was this live music venue. So we didn't have food, we didn't have anything. We opened at 10 o'clock at night, we closed at 5 o'clock in the morning, 7 nights a week. We had 3 to 7 bands a night, every night of the week, 100% original. You played one cover song, would pull the faders back on you, and so I suppose that was certainly the hospitality business, but it wasn't the food. It wasn't the food business,
I mean, knowing what you know now, reflecting at this business that you helped your friend open, being there a part of it, where did you go wrong? Knowing what you know now, what do you think were the reasons why this restaurant wasn't successful?
we were doing it with. I think the biggest problem was we were doing it with his dad's money.
Okay.
His dad had plenty of money, and it was kind of just, if anything, funding our party.
So he wasn't really out at this point, maybe a little too immature, naive, and just going out to have a good time.
Possibly. We tried very hard, you know what I mean? But we also, it was Miami in the 80s, and it was
23
chaos.
years old, 21 years old, 22 years old.
Yeah. So the stories, you know what I mean? I know there's pictures of them, there's that kind of bring back memories. It's funny, I was talking to one of my old bartenders from there this morning, and he was whipping off a bunch of dates and months and things like that, oh, that's this guy, because one of the bartenders who used to work for us passed away, and so he said, oh, this guy, John started in May, and he worked until June of 90 or 92 or something, and I'm like, how do you recall these months? I know there's 5 years 6 years I lived in Miami, but it's all a blur to me. But it's funny, that club that we had down in Miami still has a Facebook page with. It's been closed for 25 years, and it still has a Facebook page with over 1,000 people that used to go there. It was so important to them, and we've had a couple of reunions. We did a 20-year reunion that we had like 400 or 500 people come to.
So it sounds like you did have some success with it.
Oh yeah. It was a legendary club. It was very. We were doing more live music than a lot of bands in the country. There was a couple other places, but so we did have success. It was kind of a legendary club, but we lost about $250,000 of my buddy's dad's money along the way.
So was it ever profitable? Did you ever get into the black?
No.
Okay.
No, not even close.
So you were having a good time. It was packed, but you didn't. At this point in your life, you really didn't learn much about how to be a successful business person.
It was like you came in 11. I remember we had a deal with Budweiser. And we had all these glasses made, and it was $11. You kept the glass. You drank all night for the night. We had
no wonder why you guys were so popular.
We had 12 funnels hanging around the bar, and if you drank anything through the funnel, it was half price. So,
okay. Man, that's wild times.
So, people are funneling margaritas, and
So, I mean, what is there a lesson to be learned in all this?
Don't funnel margaritas.
Don't funnel margaritas. So this is all happening. You launched the club in '89. How long of a run did it have?
About 5.5 years.
Okay.
Before I didn't like Miami while I was down there. I loved what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was living the rock star life for a while. Which part of
it did you love, actually? What was the part that you loved?
I loved what I was doing. I loved the entertainment business, as far as I was the kind of the king of this rock club down there, and myself and my partner, and we had there was lots of music and lots of girls, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed what I was doing, but I didn't enjoy Miami. It was at the time it was the changing time of Miami. Miami had been taken over in the early 70s by Cuban immigrants who Castro had let out, and so Miami Beach had become nothing but Cuban bodegas and all these stores. We took over a Seventh-day Adventist church to build our rock club there, but it was it was a changing time. It was the beginning of what Miami Beach has become now. It went from kind of this
bodega neighborhood type situation to more of a glitz and glamour.
Yeah, right. The
party,
the supermodel nightlife.
Money started moving in.
Right. There was a period during the 70s and 80s where didn't want to go to Miami Beach, and so as it started, we were certainly part of the revitalization.
So kind of like what's happening in Nashville now and like Austin, Texas now, where like there's like this transformation going and it's happening fast.
Yeah,
this was what was going on in Miami at this time.
Yep,
lots of big explosion, lots of growth.
Right, and it was my first time of any period out of New Hampshire. You know what I mean? So it was a little bit of a cultural shock to me as well.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of people and things I had never seen before.
Yeah.
You know?
So you said what it was that you loved was the entertaining, the hosting, the throwing of the party, being the guy in the center. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you good at? What was your talent?
I think my talent was just we was bringing in a lot of the bands and being that guy for a while that I was the guest host. You know what I mean? I was the guy who kind of just walked around and was welcoming to everybody. I was there pretty much every night, and I think I was good at being the face of the business, be it in the media or as well as while we were there, you know. Mm-hmm. So that there was certainly some lessons throughout all the debauchery, some lessons to be learned out of Miami, you know, whether I realized it or not, but I guess looking back at it now, you know.
So that leads me into the next question. During this time, reflecting back, what were your weaknesses, knowing what you know now?
I would say the weakness was just being naive, you know, and not really knowing what we should have been doing.
To be profitable, basically.
Yeah.
You knew how to be busy, you didn't know how to be profitable.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody saying to me, you know, somebody saying, "Hey, how's business?" I was like, "Great, we have a freaking line going around the
Can't see the line?"
Yeah, down the block, you know, and he said anybody can have a line going around the block, you know.
Yeah.
You gotta make money at it, you
Yeah,
know. And I think that was kind of what we hadn't learned yet, you know, was how to make money at it.
You made the point that there was a tons of lessons that you learned during this time, and eventually we're going to take a break to come and talk about what you've done here at KC's, but I want to know, before I pull back the layers and really start probing, what do you know to be true about the lessons learned and the time, the way you transformed as a professional during this time?
I don't know if I really I don't know that there was a lot more learning at that time, honestly, because I didn't foresee myself as being in this industry then. Mm-hmm. You know, I kind of thought that, I don't know what industry I saw myself in, but I you know, when I bailed out of Miami, I was happy to bail out of Miami and just get back to New England. And I had at that point, no inkling of an idea that I was going to ever open a restaurant or anything like that. So I don't think I was really trying to learn anything,
Gotcha.
You know?
You weren't really living intentionally to build something to go on and do your own thing eventually. At this point, you're still kind of moving with the tide.
Yeah. I was trying to make a buck and party.
I am curious, though, just because I want to understand how crazy of a place this was. Is there one story that comes to mind that kind of paints the picture of how off the hinge you guys were back then?
There were a lot, but there were some groups that would come in. There's a band that's still around called the Genitorturers, and we would actually lock the front door when they would begin, because they had literally racks that they would tie people to that would spin around, and there was you know, masturbation going on stage, and just a total, like, they would bring out a 2x4 and kind of stretch somebody's genitals out onto this 2x4 with nails and such.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. And there would be everybody there kind of blocking their eyes in this revulsion, but looking at the same time, you know, kind of, how you're, you know, and this, we had them on several occasions, and there were a lot of other like the Marilyn Manson.
It's the shock and awe.
Yeah, there was a lot of, and these were things that I didn't even really know was going to happen, as prior to the show happening. I was standing there and just as in shock as everybody else.
But I think you've learned, I think you took some elements away from that, because not to say that you're stretching out genitals on your bar behind you anymore or anything like that, but there are things that you do that are like shocking, like having a meal that's served on a shovel.
Sure.
Like little things like juxtaposition, right? Things that aren't normal that you wouldn't see anywhere else. That's exactly what they're doing, and that's why they had a crowd, because you would never see anything as wild as that in public. So they knew that if you're going to this you're going to see some shit.
Right.
And I think that, is it safe to say you've carried some of these elements with you to this day to like work a crowd?
Sure. And that's the thing. I always like to try and give. There's several things here on our menu or here that I always like to give somebody something to talk about when they go back to work the next day, whether they were part of it or not, even if somebody just comes in and they're sitting there having a sandwich, if, somebody brings a shovel of food to somebody next to them, or, we serve drinks and we have these beach pails with, the shovels and everything with them, or there's things that people are able to talk about. We have a campfire at your table that we do with marshmallows and s'mores that we bring out, the little poo-poo platter thing with the flame where you cook your own s'mores at the table,
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that, and it may not, like I said, you may not order it, but if the people next to you or even the people on the other side of the room are flaming marshmallows, you smell it all the way across the room. You're like, who's making candy, or who's, because that burning sugar smell is just so addictive. So, yeah.
No, beautifully put. I mean, I don't need to add anything more to that.